Welcome back to Storyverse English. I am so happy that you are here today. Find a comfortable place, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. Today's story is about a woman whose name has survived for more than 2,000 years. Her name is Cleopatra. You have probably heard her name before. When people think of Cleopatra, they often imagine a beautiful queen wearing gold jewelry and a shining crown. Some remember her famous love stories. Others know her as the Queen of Egypt. But Cleopatra was much more than that. She was intelligent. She was brave. She was determined. She was a woman who fought for her kingdom when the world seemed to stand against her. And today, we are going to discover the real Cleopatra. So, let's begin. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You are standing in ancient Egypt more than 2,000 years ago. The warm sun shines over the golden sands. In the distance, you can see beautiful temples rising into the sky. The river Nile quietly flows through the land, bringing life to millions of people. Egypt is one of the richest and most powerful countries in the world. Ships filled with spices, silk, and treasures arrive every day from distant lands. Merchants fill the busy streets with laughter and conversation. Now imagine walking through the grand city of Alexandria. It is one of the most beautiful cities in the ancient world. Its streets are filled with scholars, artists, and travelers. The city is home to magnificent palaces and one of the greatest libraries ever built. And inside one of those royal palaces lives a young princess. Her name is Cleopatra. Cleopatra was born in 69 BC into the royal family of Egypt. Her family had ruled Egypt for many years. They were wealthy, powerful, and respected throughout the ancient world. From the moment Cleopatra was born, her life was very different from that of ordinary children. She lived in a beautiful palace surrounded by servants and teachers. She wore beautiful clothes and enjoyed the finest things that money could buy. At first, her life may sound like a fairy tale. But the truth was very different. Life inside the royal palace was often dangerous. The royal family constantly fought for power. Brothers and sisters became enemies. Family members betrayed one another. Sometimes they even ordered the deaths of their own relatives to protect their place on the throne. The palace was filled with luxury, but it was also filled with fear. Cleopatra grew up understanding that one day she might have to fight for her own survival. Unlike many royal children, Cleopatra loved learning. She was curious about the world around her. She spent hours studying history, politics, science, and languages. She was known for her intelligence from a very young age. Historians believe Cleopatra could speak at least 7 languages. Some even believe she spoke more. This was very unusual for rulers during her time. Many kings and queens needed translators when meeting people from foreign lands. Cleopatra did not. She could speak directly with ambassadors, merchants, and rulers from different countries. Even more impressively, Cleopatra became the first ruler in her family to learn the Egyptian language. Although her family originally came from Greece, Cleopatra wanted to understand the people she would one day rule. She did not want to remain distant from her kingdom. She wanted to become a great queen. As the years passed, Cleopatra grew into a confident and intelligent young woman. She dreamed of ruling Egypt and protecting its greatness. But life had other plans for her. When Cleopatra was only 18 years old, her father died. Suddenly, the young princess became the Queen of Egypt. Imagine being just 18 years old and finding yourself responsible for one of the richest kingdoms in the ancient world. It sounds exciting, doesn't it? But for Cleopatra, becoming queen was not a happy ending. It was the beginning of her greatest struggle. Ancient Egypt had a very unusual tradition. Members of the royal family often married one another. Brothers married sisters and ruled the kingdom together. This was done to keep the royal bloodline within the family. When Cleopatra became queen, she did not rule alone. She was expected to share the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. He was only 10 years old. According to tradition, Cleopatra was also expected to marry him. It may sound strange to us today, but this was common in the royal family of Egypt. At first, Cleopatra tried to rule alongside her younger brother, but she was not the kind of person who wanted others to make decisions for her. She had spent years studying politics, languages, and leadership. She knew that she had the ability to rule Egypt. Cleopatra wanted to become a great queen. She wanted to protect her kingdom and make her own decisions. Unfortunately, not everyone inside the palace agreed with her. Ptolemy XIII may have been a child, but he was surrounded by powerful advisors. These men wanted to control Egypt themselves, and they saw Cleopatra as a threat. Soon, they began turning her younger brother against her. Imagine living in a palace where you cannot trust the people around you. Every smile could hide a secret. Every conversation could be part of a dangerous plan. The palace that once felt like home was slowly becoming a battlefield. As time passed, the relationship between Cleopatra and her brother became worse. They began fighting for power. Eventually, Cleopatra was forced to flee Egypt. The young queen who had dreamed of ruling her kingdom had lost her palace, her throne, and perhaps even her future. Many rulers would have accepted defeat. But Cleopatra was not ready to give up. Instead of accepting her fate, she began planning her return. She gathered loyal supporters and slowly built a small army. Day and night, she thought about how she could reclaim her throne. Cleopatra understood something very important. Winning a battle is not always about having the largest army. Sometimes, intelligence can be more powerful than swords. Around the same time, an important event was taking place far away in Rome. One of the most powerful men in the world had arrived in Egypt. His name was Julius Caesar. Cleopatra immediately saw an opportunity. If she could convince Julius Caesar to support her, she might become queen once again. But there was one problem. She could not even enter Alexandria safely. Her enemies controlled the city, and if they discovered her, she could be captured or even killed. Most people would have been too afraid to take such a risk. Not Cleopatra. She came up with a daring plan that would make her famous throughout history. With the help of one of her loyal servants, Cleopatra was secretly brought into Caesar's palace. According to ancient writers, she was wrapped inside a large piece of carpet and carried into his room. Over time, people began calling it the famous carpet story. Historians are not completely sure if it was actually a carpet, but they agree that Cleopatra was secretly smuggled into the palace. And just like that, the young queen stood before one of the most powerful men in the world. Cleopatra was only 21 years old. She had lost her kingdom and had been forced to live in exile. Yet, she walked into Caesar's palace with confidence and determination. Julius Caesar was already a legend during his lifetime. He was one of the most powerful men in Rome. Kings and rulers respected him. His decisions could change the future of entire nations. Meeting him was both an opportunity and a great risk. Cleopatra explained everything that had happened in Egypt. She told Caesar about her fight for the throne and why she believed she was the rightful ruler of Egypt. Caesar listened carefully. Many movies and books focus only on Cleopatra's beauty, but historians believe that her intelligence and personality were what truly impressed people. She was educated, charming, and knew how to speak confidently with powerful rulers. Soon, Caesar decided to support Cleopatra. This decision changed her life forever. Of course, Cleopatra's younger brother and his advisors were furious. They did not want Caesar interfering in Egypt's affairs. Tensions quickly turned into war. Fighting broke out in Alexandria. Caesar and his soldiers fought against the forces supporting Ptolemy XIII. The city became a dangerous place as battles took place around the royal palace and harbor. During this conflict, part of the famous Library of Alexandria was damaged by fire. Historians still debate how much of the library was destroyed at that time, but it remains one of the greatest losses in history. Eventually, Cleopatra and Caesar won the war. Ptolemy XIII tried to escape after the battle. According to historical records, he drowned while crossing the Nile River. Cleopatra had finally reclaimed her throne. After everything she had endured, she was once again the Queen of Egypt. However, this victory came with something unexpected. Cleopatra and Julius Caesar grew very close. Their political partnership soon became a romantic relationship. Not long afterward, Cleopatra gave birth to a son. She named him Ptolemy XV, but he became better known by another name, Caesarion, which means Little Caesar. Many people believed that Julius Caesar was his father. For Cleopatra, Caesarion represented hope for the future of Egypt. She dreamed that one day her son might rule beside her and continue her legacy. A few years later, Cleopatra traveled to Rome with Caesarion. The Queen of Egypt was now living in the heart of the Roman world, surrounded by politicians, soldiers, and nobles. But not everyone welcomed her. Many Romans admired Cleopatra, while others viewed her with suspicion. They feared her influence over Julius Caesar and worried about what her presence might mean for Rome. And then, something shocking happened. On the 15th of March, 44 BC, Julius Caesar was assassinated by a group of Roman senators. The most powerful man in Rome had been murdered. Cleopatra suddenly found herself in a dangerous position once again. Her greatest ally was gone. Without Caesar's protection, remaining in Rome was no longer safe. Cleopatra quickly returned to Egypt with her son. For the second time in her life, she had lost a powerful supporter. But Cleopatra had survived political struggles before. She would survive this one too. Little did she know that another powerful Roman leader was about to enter her life, a man whose name would forever be linked with hers. His name was Mark Antony. Mark Antony was a brave soldier, a brilliant military commander, and one of Julius Caesar's closest friends. He was powerful, confident, and highly respected throughout Rome. One day, Mark Antony sent a message summoning Cleopatra to meet him. Cleopatra knew that this meeting was important. The future of Egypt could depend on it. So, she decided to make a grand entrance. She arrived on a magnificent ship decorated with gold and fine cloth. Music played as she sailed across the water, and everyone who saw her was amazed. Cleopatra understood the power of symbolism and knew exactly how to make people remember her. When Mark Antony finally met her, he was impressed. Cleopatra and Mark Antony had a great deal in common. Both were ambitious leaders who loved grand celebrations and dreamed of building something extraordinary. They trusted each other and supported one another during difficult times. As the years passed, their bond grew stronger. The two quickly became close, and soon their friendship blossomed into love. Today, Cleopatra and Mark Antony are remembered as one of history's most famous couples. But their relationship was not only about love. They needed each other. Cleopatra wanted to protect Egypt and secure a prosperous future for her children. Mark Antony needed Egypt's wealth, resources, and political support. Together, they became stronger. Over time, they spent many happy years together and had 3 children. They shared their dreams for the future and worked closely as both lovers and allies. For Cleopatra, these were some of the happiest years of her life. She was Queen of Egypt. She had a loving partner and a growing family. It probably felt as though life was finally going her way. But happiness does not always last forever. Back in Rome, another powerful man was watching everything. His name was Octavian. At just 18 years old, Octavian was Julius Caesar's adopted son. Despite his young age, he was intelligent, ambitious, and determined to become the ruler of Rome. Unlike Caesar, he did not trust either Mark Antony or Cleopatra. Soon, Octavian began spreading stories throughout Rome. He claimed that Mark Antony cared more about Cleopatra than he did about his own country. According to Octavian, Antony had become blinded by love and was allowing a foreign queen to influence Rome's future. Many Romans believed these accusations. Slowly, public opinion turned against Mark Antony and Cleopatra. With each passing year, the tension between Octavian and Antony grew stronger. Eventually, war became unavoidable. Cleopatra had spent her entire life fighting to keep her throne. She had survived palace conspiracies, exile, and civil wars. Now, she was about to face the greatest challenge of her life. This time, the future of Egypt itself was at stake. Sadly, Cleopatra's story was moving toward its final chapter. War had finally begun. Mark Antony and Cleopatra joined forces to fight against Octavian and his powerful Roman army. Both sides understood that this conflict would determine the future of not only Egypt, but also Rome. In 31 BC, one of the most important battles of the ancient world took place, the Battle of Actium. This was a naval battle fought at sea. Hundreds of ships filled the waters as soldiers prepared for combat. At first, Mark Antony and Cleopatra believed victory was possible. They commanded a large fleet and had loyal supporters. But things did not go as planned. During the battle, Cleopatra suddenly sailed away with her ships. Mark Antony saw her departure and chose to follow. Historians still debate exactly why this happened. Some believe it was part of a strategic retreat, while others think confusion and panic changed the course of the battle. Whatever the reason, leaving the battlefield proved disastrous. Octavian won. After their defeat, Mark Antony and Cleopatra returned to Egypt. They knew that Octavian's army would soon arrive. For the first time in many years, Cleopatra's future looked hopeless. She had spent her entire life fighting for her kingdom. She had risked everything to become queen once again. But now, Egypt was about to fall into Roman hands. Soon, Octavian's army entered Egypt. Then, something tragic happened. Mark Antony received false news that Cleopatra had died. Heartbroken, he believed there was nothing left to live for. He took his own life. Later, when he learned that Cleopatra was still alive, it was already too late. According to historical accounts, Mark Antony died in Cleopatra's arms. Cleopatra was heartbroken and devastated. But her greatest fear was still to come. Octavian wanted to take Cleopatra back to Rome as his prisoner. She would be forced to walk through the streets while people watched and celebrated Rome's victory. For a queen as proud and powerful as Cleopatra, this was something she could never accept. She had ruled Egypt for more than 20 years. She had fought wars, survived betrayal and exile, and stood beside some of the most powerful men in history. She was not willing to spend the rest of her life as someone's prisoner. So, Cleopatra made one final decision. In 30 BC, at the age of just 39, Cleopatra took her own life. The exact way she died remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Many people believe that she allowed an Egyptian cobra, also known as an asp, to bite her. Others believe she used poison hidden in a small container. Historians are still debating what really happened. But one thing is certain. Cleopatra chose her own ending. With her death, ancient Egypt came to an end as an independent kingdom. Egypt became part of the Roman Empire, and Octavian would later become Augustus, the first Roman emperor. The last queen of Egypt was gone. But her story did not end there. More than 2,000 years later, people still talk about Cleopatra. Books have been written about her, movies have been made about her life, and historians continue to study her remarkable story. She is often remembered for her beauty and her famous love stories. But Cleopatra was so much more than that. She was intelligent, brave, determined, and above all, she was a queen who refused to give up without a fight. Her story reminds us that history is not only made by kings and emperors. Sometimes it is made by a young woman who believed in herself and fought for what she loved. And that is why, even after 2,000 years, the world still remembers the name Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt. And with that, our story comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed learning about the fascinating life of Cleopatra. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Storyverse English for more amazing stories from history. Every week, we'll travel back in time to meet extraordinary people, uncover forgotten secrets, and explore the stories that shaped our world, all while improving your English naturally and effortlessly. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next story.